Hello and welcome to Home Practice 3. If you haven't seen the videos for Home Practice 1 and Home Practice 2, that's a good idea to go back and look over those because this will make a lot more sense. In Home Practice 1, we spoke about breath and sound and we practiced that. In Home Practice 2, we looked at the inner flute and how we can breathe energy up our body. And in Home Practice 3, this one, we're going to add movement and we're going to put all of those together. So it really is worth looking at Home Practice 1 and Home Practice 2 and breathing along with those. So movement, two types of movement we can add to this practice, okay? We've got what people would call Kegels. I'm not a massive fan of practicing Kegels, but instead of practicing Kegels, we're just squeezing the PC pump muscle and releasing. So that's the muscle that stops us mid-wee, basically. And if we can squeeze those and release those in a controlled manner, so we're not squeezing and tightening and then just releasing, it's an effortless squeeze and an effortless release. You don't have to squeeze to maximum or anything like that, and it shouldn't be tension building anywhere else in your body. It's really important to keep your knees bendy and flexy for this. I like people to practice this standing up actually because it's helpful. Some practice it sitting down or kneeling down, but bending your knees. If you check out my knees, they're not locked, they're not straight, they're nice and bent, and they're always nice and bent. So we can squeeze and release, squeeze and release. My hips have already naturally started moving, so we can add hip movements in. We can either do it with the squeeze or without. Let's try it without to begin with. So the hip movements, again, knees bendy and flexy. Hips going forward and back. Check out my knees, they're staying bent, forward and back. So what isn't happening is I'm not doing a thrust forward and back. So I'm not drawing a straight line with my hips. It's more of a C shape and back. See the rocking motion, forward and back. I can forward and back, forward and back. I can squeeze on the forward, squeeze and release with control, squeeze and release. Even if you're only squeezing kind of energetically and can't physically feel anything happening, that's fine. The intention is there to wake up this muscle that many of us have forgotten about or just overstretched and overworked and oversqueezed. So even if we're just squeezing at 5% and relax, 5% and relax, okay? It doesn't have to be a massive effort, this. The pelvic floor is, there's a lot of myths out there about how much squeezing we need to do for the pelvic floor. I'm not convinced particularly, but for this, it's useful for building the energy up within our sex, our genitals and our pelvis so that then we can use the breath and the movement to steer it through the rest of the body. So we've got the squeeze and we've got the hip rock. For me, those are the two movements to add. And then, of course, any other organic movements that your body might want to make. When you develop this breath, sound and movement as more of a practice, you might find that your body kind of starts to do what it wants and you sway a bit and you rock a bit, and that's great too. Don't stop your body in its organic flow. That's a really massive thing about pleasure in general. So let's have a quick reminder of Home Practice 1 and 2. Breath, straw breath, pursing those lips, breathing in. Releasing the jaw with sound, making sure that the knees are nice and bent still. Straw breath in and releasing the jaw. Louder sound this time. Great. Keep going with that. The sound is where most people struggle, but for me it really is the key of relaxing and releasing, which is the opposite to what we do when we get into high states of arousal. We tense, so we try and cling on, we try and strive for the goal. If we relax and expand, the sound really does this for me and for the clients that I work with as well. So the inner flute, the idea was that we have a flute running up inside of our body where connects our heart, our sex, our heart and our top chakras to the divine, basically. You don't need to know anything about chakras for this. All you need to think about is an energy channel running through your body. And when we're breathing in, we're pulling that energy up from sex to heart, and then when we're breathing out, it's dissolving through the rest of the upper body or the rest of the entire body. But for me, I feel it the most from my heart down my arms and my skull. can use your hands to stroke that up and or both hands. Whatever feels good for you. Breath, sound, in a flute visualization if you like, as light coming up and dissipating through, and then movement. Knees nice and bent, jaw nice and relaxed, everything nice and loose, guys. Make sure that just through that little mini practice you haven't just built up tension in our shoulders often. We can concentrate so much on our breathing that our chest and our shoulders get really tight. This should be a nice easy movement. So breath, sound, breath, sound, visualizing that energy up. Hard on the hips. Forward. If it's not too much, out on the squeeze. If that's too much, back to breath and sound. You can stop at any points along the way. You can close your eyes. Keep going whilst I speak over this. So the squeezing is building up the energy, and the movement as the breath is helping pulling it up the body. Keep going. You might be starting to feel some sensation right now. You might be starting to feel some tingling or some warmth, or you might be starting to feel nothing or numbness even, some disconnect. And that's okay. This is a new practice maybe for most of us. So just stick with it. Keep breathing and sounding and moving. Checking that your knees are nice and released, your jaw is nice and released, your shoulders are nice and released. Keep going with this for another few moments. Increase the intensity of the sound. See how that changes the quality of the experience. And without stopping completely, bringing it down a bit. So we're just spiraling out without stopping. Really relaxing on that out. As we start to slow our breathing, bringing the hand to heart, hand to sex, till our breath finds a more natural rhythm. Make sure those knees are still bend and flexing. We're not bringing any stiffness into our body. And when I say bringing it to stillness, what I actually mean is your own expression of stillness right now. My body's naturally gone to a rock, and that feels good, but kind of internally there's a certain amount of stillness going on in amongst all the vibration. So finding the stillness that works for you today. Still breathing, just a more natural rhythmic breathing, and tuning in to what you feel under your hands. What do you feel in your chest space, if anything? Any sensation there? And what do you feel in your sex, if anything? Any sensation there? And even if we feel numbness, that lets us know that there's something there, there's something to be felt, we just can't feel it for now. And the numbness is maybe the block where your work is. And if you felt absolutely nothing from today's practice, I encourage you to don't lose heart, keep going with it. It's a great practice. Set a timer, do it for 10 minutes every day for a few days, and journal afterwards and write down any experiences or any sensations you might have felt, and it might change day to day. And some days I'm quite practiced at this and I'm pretty good, I'm in my flow and I'm in multi-orgasmic breath sound movement, and other days it's just not working for me. Either it's cold or I'm tired or a bit run down or a bit ill. So don't beat yourself up if you don't feel anything, okay? Just fully accept and love the body exactly as it is, and take this as a bit of daily devotion to your body and gratitude for bringing you whatever it's trying to show you today. Good luck.